What's up, y'all? Greg here, otherwise known as Legendary 42. When I was growing up, there's a comedian, a guy by the name of Jeff Foxworthy, you might have heard of. Got famous for his series of jokes titled You Might Be a Redneck. I love these jokes. I have them on cassette tape, played them all the time on my Walkman. Hell, I qualified for at least half of them. Now, times are changing, and you're a little inspiration from them for today's video. Well, you might be a racist. Now listen, I'm not here to call anybody a racist. That maybe Elon Musk, he deserves it, but I digress. I'm just here to help you figure out if you might accidentally be one. Like a racist litmus test, but cheaper, more accurate, and hopefully funnier. So, in the spirit of public service, if any of the following hits a little too close to home, you might be a racist. Now, without further ado, I'll start with the most obvious signs. Now, if you've ever issued a statement to say you are not a racist, you might be a racist. If you've ever felt the need to say, I have black friends, you might be a racist. If you've ever complimented a person of color by calling them articulate, you just might be a racist. If you've ever used the phrase, I'm not a racist, but, and followed that with literally anything, you are probably a racist. Now, if the word racist offends you more than actual racism, you might be a racist. If you've ever had to defend yourself by saying there is no hard R, you might be a racist. Or an idiot. If you think the United States Civil War was fought over states' rights, you might be a racist. If you think affirmative action is the reason you didn't get into Harvard and not your 2.4 GPA, you might be a racist. If you're more worried about colleges teaching critical race theory than actual history being erased, you guessed it, you might be a racist. If you think Make America Great Again was never about race, you might be a racist. If your idea of diversity is one racially ambiguous intern on your campaign team, you might be a racist. If you've ever used the phrase urban crime, you might be a racist. If your first reaction to police brutality is, well, he shouldn't have resisted, you might be a racist. If you've ever used the word woke in a derogatory manner, you might be a racist. If you lost your fucking mind over Beyonce at the Super Bowl but had no issue with Kid Rock in a fur coat and American flag poncho, you're probably a racist. And if you're a draft dodger whose grandfather was a German draft dodger who immigrated to the United States illegally in 1885 and had 4 children from 2 immigrants, but you're obsessed with building walls and banning people today, you are most certainly a fucking racist. Now, if you're still watching this and thinking none of these apply to me, congratulations. You're either completely self-aware or you're exactly the reason I made this video. Denial doesn't make you less racist, it just makes you louder and easier to spot, kind of like a honey bit. If any of this made you uncomfortable, that's good. Growth starts where your ego gets punched. And if your first instinct is to leave a comment explaining why you're not racist, don't worry, you already made a list. But this isn't about guilt, it's about responsibility, maybe a little bit of humor. If you laughed, cringed, or saw a little of yourself in any of this, that's the invitation. Start by listening more than you talk, unlearn louder than you defend, and when you see racism, not just burning crosses, but job interviews, news cycles, school boards, call it out, loudly, relentlessly, unapologetically. Because silence has always been the safest place for racism to hide. Use your voice, use your vote, use your discomfort. And if you're wondering what to do next, good. Keep wondering, then do something. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and maybe, just maybe, read a history book that wasn't written by a state board in Texas.